Jacob from Wager Me This. Get this stop wiggling. There we go. Today I'm going to be giving out some free Major League Baseball picks, as well as I'm going to be giving my NFC South preview. And the NFC South obviously is the home of Tom Brady at this point. So people tend to care about that. Since Tom Brady is widely considered the best quarterback of all time, there's definitely been some controversy around him lately. I don't know. I guess controversy is kind of the wrong word. But he's definitely had. He took a leave of absence, which personally, I don't think matters all that much because I think he wasn't going to play in the preseason anyway. I think there's more being made of it than it really is. That's just my opinion on that. What's up, Mr. Larry? But I do think I have a breakdown. I broke down all the teams, and I've watched 2 of their preseason games now, each one all the way through. The Falcons and the Panthers I've watched a couple times. I think New Orleans and the Buccaneers are kind of what they are. I don't think there's a lot of differences there. Even though New Orleans has a bunch of new pieces at receiver, I still think we have to see Jameis Winston be able to throw the ball to them guys. When he played last year, he was effective, but he wasn't overly effective passing the ball. They were just really effective at not losing games when he was in. He didn't turn the ball over very much, which is one of the things he used to do. But they weren't like lighting it up throwing the football. So having new receivers, having Michael Thomas back, I don't know what it means yet. I think that a lot of people are looking at it like, oh, look, it's going to be so great. But let's remember, Michael Thomas was great with Drew Brees, with one of the all-time great quarterbacks. That's who he was great with. It wasn't great with a bunch of other guys, So we'll see what that looks like. It does appear to be good. It looks like the Saints were able to reload after kind of having a big cap problem, having to get rid of a bunch of, cap players, and they were kind of able to bring some guys in. So it's not terrible for them, but it definitely is kind of a question mark in my opinion as far as the Saints go. The Buccaneers are what they are, right? Tom Brady's healthy, Tom Brady's in. They're going to win a lot of football games. They have a good defense, they stop the run. Even though they got rid of Sue, they still have Vita Vea and those guys, and the Roaches guy. He was as good as Sue was anyway. Their corners will be healthy. Their secondary will be healthy this year, at least until they're not, if they get hurt. But at first they'll be healthy, and that was one of the big problems last year with the Bucs, is that their corners and their secondary was beat up all year long. That hurt them real bad, and against the good passing teams especially. But as far as the NFC South goes, I don't think the top 2 teams in it really matter all that much, right? I mean, the Bucs are probably going to win it, and the Saints are probably going to be second. After that, it's kind of a toss-up. Now, the one thing I will say is that for all you Carolina fans out there, Carolina is the trickiest team in the whole NFL right now, in my opinion, to figure out. Maybe the second trickiest team. Either way, they're right at the top. Because if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, they can play football with anybody, right? Because their defense is pretty stout. Their defense kept them in a lot of games last year. It's just Darnold and whoever else was at quarterback couldn't get it done. Do I think they upgraded a lot with Baker Mayfield? No, I don't think it's a huge upgrade, but I do think it is an upgrade. Baker Mayfield has played in meaningful games. He's played in the playoffs. He's played with good teams. He's played with a good running game. Baker Mayfield is the better quarterback for sure. It's not close, in my opinion. Will he have a good season there? I think he will. They have some pretty good weapons on the outside, and if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, he'll have that. So I actually think Baker Mayfield has a chance to have a really good year. The problem is the Saints and the Bucks are both still better than them. Like the overall product for both of those other teams is better than Carolina's. So that's still an issue. So I feel like Baker Mayfield could have a great year and still just be third at 7-10. You know, I mean, and people will, oh, he couldn't get it done, and he may have got it done. It just, you know, when you're facing Tom Brady twice a year, and you know, and another thing is Christian McCaffrey going to stay healthy? He hasn't proven he can. So they build an offense and they build all these packages around him, and then next thing you know, 3 games in, he gets hurt and he's out 6 games. I mean, and it just derails them. It has the last couple of years. They were actually kind of on a good run last year to start the season. Christian McCaffrey was healthy. The offense wasn't turning the ball over. The defense was playing stout defense. They looked like a really good team. Christian McCaffrey went down. It all fell apart. And it's because the team is built around him. It's built around his skill set. And so Carolina is one of the trickiest teams in the whole NFL to figure out, because their defense is actually good. When you look at the metrics and the statistics on their defense, the defense was not the problem last season. In fact, the defense kept them in a lot of games that they shouldn't have been in. So it all boils down to me. I do think they upgraded at quarterback, but it all boils down to me on whether Christian McCaffrey stays healthy. And I think for all you Carolina fans out there, you're going to have a really nice start to the season, and it's going to look really good. Because if I remember right, Carolina has a good start. Let me look it up real quick. I think their first 2 games are winnable. Okay, so their first 2 games. Okay, so the first 2 games are at home versus the Browns and going to the Giants. And I think they'll be 2-0 because the Browns, even though Jacoby Brissett, I think, will be serviceable, and they'll have a good running game. Without Deshaun Watson, I still think the Browns are very mediocre, even with a good running game, even because I think actually Carolina's D-line stacks up well against the Browns' offensive line. And the Browns have a great offensive line, but Carolina has a great defensive line. So I actually think it stacks up pretty well. And I actually think Baker Mayfield will have a little bit of resentment in that one, and I think he's going to show out. I actually think the Panthers getting the Browns at home week 1 is a very interesting situation with Baker Mayfield, right? So what I think ends up happening there is I do think that Panthers get that one done. Especially, you know, McCaffrey's going to be there. They're going to be healthy. They're going to be effective. The thing is when all the pieces are in place in Carolina, their team grades out well. Their team grades out as an effective, should be a pretty good football team. Problem is when they start getting hurt, which a lot of them are really prone to being hurt, they fall off quickly. So, and I do think I think they win week 1 there. I think they beat the Browns week 1 in the Baker Mayfield revenge game. I actually think that. And then the Giants. The Giants are just in an interesting mess. Could the Panthers go to New York and lose? Yeah, they could. I actually think that the Giants were kind of leaning toward Tyrod Taylor until this last preseason game. I think Daniel Jones actually kind of showed up and they saw what they wanted to see out of him. And I actually think he's won the job already after that preseason game because he looked crisp. And believe it or not, guys, the Giants, if the Giants players show up, they're talented, right? They are talented. They got Barkley. They got Galladay. If Daniel Jones is anything, and he's got the right coach with Dable, right? Dable is going to give him the Josh Allen treatment. He's going to try to turn him into Josh Allen 2.0. He kind of looks the part. We'll see if he can be that guy. But as far as skill set goes and team, the Carolina's more talented than the Giants. And so they'll most likely go up there and get the win. And Carolina will be 2-0, and everyone will be, yay, they're 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. and then it gets really hard after that. So, because their next games are playing the Saints, playing the Cardinals, playing the 49ers. Now, the 49ers do have to come there. But that's still, it's just rough. And then it's the Rams, the Bucks. You know, it's a rough run after those first two for Carolina. But they probably will go 2-0, and then they probably lose the next three. I don't. Carolina's way up in the air for me, and I think when McCaffrey gets hurt, I think it'll just dive bomb. Even with Baker Mayfield there, and I do think Baker Mayfield is an upgrade. Is Baker Mayfield a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? No, of course not. But he's in that middle 10. He's definitely in that middle 10 for me. Let's not forget that Baker Mayfield has had some good years. He's had some good moments. You know, he's won a playoff game. It's not like he hasn't been there. You know, he almost beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. So it's not like he's never done it. He has been good. He kind of got a bad deal in Cleveland between him and Odell. Just that thing kind of crashed up there for him. I think Carolina's a good start for him. Carolina's the right kind of team for him. They're not necessarily built around a quarterback, which Cleveland wasn't either, but I think Carolina's the better team for him. And we'll see what he does. He could be good, or it could be terrible. You know, I mean, we could see just a total regression, and he could be bad. But I doubt it. I think he'll be pretty good there. I actually like their coach Rule. He's a good coach. He was good in college, at least. All right, so let's talk about Tampa Bay real quick. Okay, so Tampa Bay, obviously Tampa Bay's good, right? There's no doubting they're good. They're skilled everywhere. They got Tom Brady. But they do have a new coach. Well, it's not a new coach, but it's not Arians. And they promoted their defensive coordinator to head coach instead of their offensive coordinator, which is interesting to me. And I think they did that with the idea that Brady wasn't coming back. You know, because remember, Brady had retired. And so I think that for some of the situation there was because Brady was leaving. So I think what they thought was that the offense would be behind the defense and get them a defensive coach. Maybe they can still be competitive. But then Brady comes back. So I don't know. I think I still think that they're really, really good. And I've learned to never bet against Tom. And I think this is his last hurrah. So I think he's just going to put it all out there. It is what it is this season for him. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have another MVP type season, MVP caliber type season with the weapons they got. And they added, which I don't know how much this matters, they added Julio Jones and Russell Gage to their receiving core. I think it's just a depth thing, right? Because it seems like Godwin gets hurt every year. And, you know, it seems like Evans will miss a game or two. They added to it. Gronk retired, so they go and get Rudolph. Rudolph is an old man at tight end, so kind of Gronky, like he's like a very generic version of Gronk. I just think Tampa. I don't know that Tampa can lose the one spot in the South. Even if they lose twice to New Orleans, I just think they'll win too many more games. Now, they do have a tough schedule, so let's talk Tampa's schedule. Their schedule's hard. All right, so they start with the Cowboys, Saints, Packers, Chiefs. Cowboys, Saints, Packers, Chiefs. And let's not forget that Cowboy game last year. Cowboys had the lead with a minute and a half left, and Brady had to go down and get a field goal to win that game. The Cowboys were in the lead in that game. Remember, they were. That was a great game to start the season last year. It was a fantastic game. It was like a bazillion and 1 points in it. They were throwing the ball all over the field. It was a fun game. I think this one will be the same. I think we're going to get the same Cowboys-Bucks game. It's going to be really good. But they go from playing in Dallas to playing at the Saints. And then they got Green Bay at home and the Chiefs at home. It's just a bad start to the season for the Bucs. There is no doubt that the Buccaneers could start 0-4. They legitly could start 0-4. If the Buccaneers start 0-4, they will likely be a wild card. Will they? Probably not. I mean, honestly, if the let's just say for whatever reason Cowboys beat them on opening day, I think they come back and beat the Saints in New Orleans, and then let's say they beat Green Bay at home and Kansas City beats them. I think 2-2 is more reasonable for their start. But make no mistake, they could go 0-4. The thing is I don't think they can go 4-0. I don't think that they can go through all 4 of those games and win all 4. It's too tough of a start. And that's what happens when you win divisions and you win Super Bowls and you get those starts. And it doesn't get great after that, guys. They get, after that run, they get the Falcons, so they get a break at the Falcons. But then they get the Steelers, the Panthers, the Ravens, the Rams. So, and guys, I'm high on the Steelers. Not because I like the quarterback situation as much. I just think the Steelers are going to be good because their defense is really good. Their defense didn't get worse. And that's something that always gets overlooked with Pittsburgh. The defense didn't get worse. So, but that always gets overlooked, and then like last year, they figured out a way to get in the playoffs. Now, they got hammered with Ben Roethlisberger punting footballs out there. I mean, but still, they figured out how to get in the playoffs. I do think they have an upgrade coming at QB no matter who they choose. But they're just, the Steelers are the Steelers. They're going to be there. They're going to be good. But anyway, so the Buccaneers' schedule is just brutal. It's just miserably hard. They really need to go 6-0 in division. They really do, because of the teams they have to face. And then later in the year they get the 49ers, the Bengals, Arizona. Later in the year they have 3 tough runs, which is usually what happens with the good playoff teams. They end up with really tough runs. And it is what it is. It's when you're winning, you're going to get the harder division. You're going to get you're going to have to go on away games to good teams. It's just the way the scheduling works. But so as far as the South goes, I do think the Bucs will figure out a way to win it. I think the Saints will be right there with them. Does that mean that the Saints will overtake them? If the Saints beat them twice in the regular season again this year, I do think the Saints win the division. Just because the Bucs division is so hard. Now, do I think the Bucs will miss the playoffs? The only way they miss the playoffs is if Brady goes down. That's it. That's the only way I think they miss the playoffs. If Brady doesn't play the full season, because Brady will win some of those games, some of those tough games. He will figure out a way to win those games. So I do think that they're closer to a 500 team than a 750 team, if you understand what I mean. I don't think they're going to win 3/4 of their games, but I don't think they're only going to win half. So I think they fall in the middle, maybe 11-6-ish, somewhere in there, 10-7, something like that. And I think that they're borderline. I think that division is borderline, really. I don't think any team in the division wins the Super Bowl, but if one team can, it is the Bucs. I just don't think that they're more talented than some of the other teams, and some of the other teams will have home field advantage and some different things. But the NFC South is going to be more competitive than it has been, as long as McCaffrey's healthy. And I actually like what Atlanta's doing. Atlanta's going to be able to score points. There's no doubt. I think Atlanta under Arthur Smith, they're going to be able to score points. With Mariota, I think it's going to be a unique offense. Maybe some Baltimore-y stuff, but with Pitts, and I just think they're going to be able to manufacture some points. Will they win a lot of games? Probably not. Atlanta probably won't win a ton of games, but I think they'll be in a ton of games. Like, I think Atlanta will be one of the ones where we're taking their points a lot in the betting world. We're taking the points because they're scoring 24-26 a game, somewhere in there, and they're covering spreads because they're ending up getting 7 points and stuff. So I think Atlanta's going to be undervalued, but I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. And this happens some years. A lot of times the team that covers the most is usually a bad team. It's usually not a good team. So a lot of times they're covering point spreads that are, they're getting 7.5 to 12, in a bunch of games, and they end up covering. Because they're either good on one side of the ball or the other usually. Usually they're good and they can score some points, so they backdoor a lot of spreads. And I think that's who Atlanta's going to be. I don't think they're going to be a good football team, but I think they're going to be good enough on offense to cause people some problems later in games, and maybe stun some people. Show up and get a few upsets here and there, just because they can have those days on offense. Now, obviously, if they lose Pitts or one of those guys to an injury, they're probably really bad, because their offense kind of revolves around Pitts' ability, because he's not really a tight end. He plays tight end, but he actually lined up at receiver more than tight end last year. But so overall in the NFC South, what I like is the hierarchy is I like Tampa Bay to get it done. I like New Orleans to be right there with them. And then I like Carolina, as long as you're seeing McCaffrey stay healthy for at least half the games. I think Carolina will land in that 7-10 range. And then I think Atlanta's kind of crazy, because they could win 4 or 5 games, or they could lose them all. I mean, so, but I do think they'll be better, and I think they'll be, Atlanta won 7 games last year. It wasn't like they were a terrible team. They did win 7 times. So, did they get worse? Yeah, you have to get worse if you lose Matt Ryan and trade him for Mariota. I mean, you can't get better there, really, because Matt Ryan's still effective. But overall, they are going to be okay on offense. I think their defense, Atlanta only had 17 sacks or something last season. So they don't get to the quarterback. So that's one of the problems. They give up a lot of points because they don't ever put pressure on the quarterback in Atlanta. So keep that in mind. Most likely they haven't done enough to address that. You can't get those pass rushers to come to Atlanta that you need. So you got to build them. I mean, they did draft some people, but we'll see where they end up. They're not going to change it from 17 to 40. So we'll just see what they have. They're a bad pass rushing team, but they should score some points. Anyway, so let's give out a free MLB picks. Let's go with 2 MLB picks. So the first one I'm going to give out is my favorite play of the day. My favorite play of the day is the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, the St. Louis Cardinals are playing against the Cubs in Wrigley. The Cardinals are pitching Wainwright, which is an elite pitcher. He's been pitching forever, and he is pretty good his whole career. The Cubs are pitching a guy named Assad. This is his first Major League Baseball start, his very first one, and he gets to face the red-hot Cardinals lineup. It's just a terrible spot for this Assad kid. He's got to go against a lineup that has Arenado, Goldschmidt, and a really, really hot Pujols right now. And by hot, I mean he's got like 8 home runs in 7 games or something like that. He's working on getting to 700 home runs for his career. I think he's 7 away. So I'm taking it that kids like this guy, he's going to try to hammer him out of the park. He's actually hit, I think he's hit a home run off 489 or something different pitchers. It's insane. He's almost got 700 home runs in his career. So the dude is ridiculous. And he's still hammering them. He hit one yesterday to win the game. There was a 1-0 game, and he's the only scorer. So he's been hot. He's coming through. He's trying to get to that 700, obviously. And the Cardinals have won 8 in a row. They have won 8 games in a row. And they're playing the Cubs, which is an inferior team to them anyway. The Cardinals are hot with the better pitcher going. It just all lines up for the Cardinals. I actually have a 5-unit play on this. It's 5 units, and the money line's not terrible. It's at -190. In this spot, I would think that this money line would be way closer to 280, maybe even 300. But it's an early game. It's a doubleheader. I guess they're expecting the Cubs to score some. But I just think that the pitching matchup where the Sod kid has to face the Cardinals lineup is too much. It's too big for him. I would be surprised if he makes it past the third inning. It's just a bad spot. It's a really bad spot for him to start his career. We actually played a play like this earlier in the year when Leiter started, and he was starting in Colorado. Like his first start was in Colorado the season, and he got shelled. I mean, it's just there's sometimes that it's just bad spots for guys, and this is one of them. So I got the St. Louis money line. Whatever you want to put on, it's a good play. You could give up the 1.5. I'm not gonna. It's under 200 here. I'm just gonna put more money on the money line just in case you get a reliever issue. A reliever gives up some runs or something. But I actually think the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals will score over 5 runs today. So, and we'll see some home runs. So. Next game for YouTube, my YouTube people. Sorry, I'm writing it down real quick. This is a good one. This is going to be a really interesting one. You can actually bet this 2 ways. You got Miami, because Miami Marlins. They don't score very much. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. They just don't score very much. They have a really good pitching staff and a really, really bad group of hitters. They just don't plate a lot of runs. They average just over 3 runs a game. They're playing Oakland in Oakland, right? This is just a very low-scoring game, most likely. The high likelihood is that this is very low-scoring. Hold on, I need to look something up real quick. But what you get here is you're getting. I'm trying to pull up the whole thing here really quick. Got Miami. Where are you, Miami? There we are. Okay, so Miami's only a minus 140 favorite, but they're pitching Lopez, and Lopez is he's basically a 1 strikeout per inning guy. This is just a bad spot for the A's. The A's are playing them, and the A's are pitching Lagu, however you say his name. He's not a good pitcher, guys. In 45 innings, he's given up 10 home runs, 50 hits, 17 walks. He's just not a good pitcher, all right? The over and under is 7. But Miami and Oakland, they just don't play overs. They just really don't. I mean, overall, they pretty well stay 7 runs or less. So the over and under is a good play if you want to go under. But I like the Miami money line better. Even though you're giving up about 30 cents, Miami, the likelihood that Miami wins the game is better than the likelihood that the game stays under. And so I like the Miami money line here. And I think if you want to get frisky with this, you could parlay these two, St. Louis and Miami, together today. And I think you're going to have a pretty solid win. I don't think it's going to be much of a sweat. Obviously, I could be wrong. But I actually like that as well. And I actually have that put in as well. So St. Louis money line, Miami money line. Number 2 good plays today. Really good likelihood, high probability plays. The money lines aren't miserable. They're not minus 250s or anything like that. And so I do think it's a good spot to parlay it. Play it 3 ways. You can play both money lines separate and then a little bit on a parlay. I do think these games are going to be relatively easy wins, not hard wins, not sweaty wins. I think that the Assad kid for Chicago is going to get blasted. And I think that Miami will do enough to win the game. And I think Lopez will dominate the A's from a pitching standpoint. So the overall there is it's a really good solid play. Really good, really good probability of win. And it's, in my opinion, most of the time, probability of win matters more than value. And I'll explain this first really quick, because from a lot of standpoints, from making money, right? If you're betting on Floyd Mayweather to lose in boxing, you lost every time. So even though the value was there, you were getting plus 10,000 at times with Floyd Mayweather, and you had to lay minus 15,000, but you won every single time with Floyd Mayweather. So if you ever bet a single time against him, you lost. You lost every single one of them. And that's kind of the way, oftentimes, people will shy away from large money lines, will shy away from large favorites, just to win. And from a win-loss standpoint, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense. You should be playing those teams. Because if you bet $10 and you return $5, or if you bet $10 and you just lose $10 because you took the plus money, the overall situation is the favorites are going to win more than the underdogs, and especially in baseball, especially if you're taking the favorites that tend to be minus 200 plus, because you're talking about the teams that are going to win 100 games. And so does it pan out overall? Like if you just played all of the Dodgers games this year for the Dodgers to win, where would you be at? You'd be way up. You'd be way up. Even with the losses, even with paying the big price, you'd be way up, because there's been plenty of Dodger wins that were minus 130 and minus 140. There's been plenty of them. There's been plenty of them that were less than 200. Now there's been some that were over 200. But the idea overall, the probability of win is so much higher when you take those teams, especially versus weaker teams. So the overall situation in that, I think a lot of times people get scared of those big money lines, and they would rather take a team that is unlikely to win, but for more money if they do win. And they look at it, and this is what I hear all the time, is that, yeah, but I only have to win 1 out of 3 of them. Well, yeah, but if the team doesn't win 1 out of 3 games usually, or 1 out of 3 of those situations usually, then it's not a good play. And so that's one of the things that I don't like about value handicapping. And a lot of the handicappers out there, I am not one of them, a lot of the handicappers handicap based on value. How much value is in this play? Well, oftentimes them plays lose. And so there's a secondary version of the problem with this, is that it's a mental issue, right? If you have 10 losses in a row because you're betting value, even if the next 5 win and you get your money back, the 10 losses in a row wears on you. So it really wears on you. So having wins and losses, even if you're having to give up more price, the wins and losses helps with your mental aspect of betting. And make no mistake, guys, gambling on anything, there's a lot of mental aspect that goes into it. Being comfortable with what you're doing is very important. Whether it's craps, whether it's poker, whether it's sports betting, no matter what it is, being comfortable with it, being mentally comfortable with it is a huge deal. Because when I go on long losing streaks, and it happens to every handicapper, guys, anyone that says they never lose is lying. When you go on our big losing streaks or have bad days, it hurts mentally. It's like, dang, where did I mess up that bad? So a lot of times it's just the variance. A lot of times it's just the variance of the plays coming through, and it happens on a single day, or it happens in 1 week. But then the next 2 weeks are fantastic. And so the variance of the plays. But don't be afraid of big favorites. Just don't be afraid of them. I'm not telling you to never play value. I do think there's a balance there. I think that the value is important, but the value is important when you have, in my opinion, when you have 2 good teams playing against each other, or 2 really bad teams playing against each other. I think that's where you find value. I think when you have a good and a bad playing, I don't think there's really ever a lot of reasons to take the bad team. I just think that the probability doesn't pan out. It doesn't equal the value. In my opinion, it's kind of like this in the world of craps, because I know a lot of you guys are craps guys. But if you're going to play max odds all the time, I know they tell you and they scream at you all this, craps people will say max odds is the only way to get the house edge down. Max odds is a terribly risky way to play. So let's say even if you're at a 3, 4, 5 table and you're having to put $10 on the line, so you're having to back it up with 30, 40, or $50 every time just to play that house edge play. The variance that goes against you is so detrimental that you don't make up the money, because the positive side of it doesn't, no matter what they want to tell you, it won't make it up. And so you're losing large losses each time you lose those, especially with strategies like the 3-point Molly and stuff, where you're putting 3 of those large bets out and getting smacked. And so it's just like anything else. Playing the more probable side of craps is going to be more probable that you win. If you lay the 4 all day long and you just sit there and lay the 4, most likely you broke even. The huge majority of the time you're going to break even. There's going to be a run that day, though, where you see 4 or 5 sevens and about 10 rolls. And if you leave right then, you're probably going to be a winner. Will you see 4 or 5 pass lines plus odds hit in one day before a 7 happens? Probably not. I mean, that's hitting a fire bet or really close to it, or stuff like that. It's just the probability pans out better than the value. And I know it gets preached, especially in handicapping, that you should be looking for value first. And I disagree with that. I personally disagree with that. I think you should be looking for win probability first. How likely is the bet going to win? Is it really likely? Is it a coin flip? And I think that's where you should be finding, okay, does the value match the probability? I think you should always look for the probability first. Does the value match it? Not, here's the value, does the probability match it? Because, like I've told people before, I'd rather win 9 minus 1,000 games, and lose the 1, even if I lose the $100. I'd rather be 9-1 than hopefully, win 1 out of 10. Because I'll have chances in there that I could have left up money. I personally don't think value is first. I think it's second. But that's just and I also think that when you're looking at bets, you should be looking at the alternative versions of the bets. Okay, if you like today, if you like the Mets plus 1.5, well then maybe you like an alternative version of the bet, maybe the Mets to score over 3 runs or 4 runs or something. I think there's a lot of value in the sides, and that's where I think you can find values, in the props, in the side versions of bets, in the first 5 inning bets, in the pitchers to win bets, in those type of bets. When you're just looking at straight money lines, straight over and unders, and the run line, the pure run line, guys, Vegas is good at handicapping those. So when you see a weird value on one side, make no mistake, they may be trying to push you one way or the other. They may be trying to get you on one side because they have so much money on one side already. And that's how Vegas works. They try to get even money on both sides of the bet, and then they take their juice. So if you see a weird value on one side, there's probably a reason for it. That means there's probably a lot of play on a different side. And so there's probably a reason there's a lot of play on the other side. But anyways, that's just one of my little rants on that. Again, guys, I do things differently, whether it's craps, whether it's handicapping sports. I'm not the same as everyone else. In a lot of ways, I'm self-taught. I learned most of what I know from prison. I did it for years and years and years in there. Came out here and started doing it. But my style is not the same as everyone else's. But with that said, I also don't charge $50, $60, $200, $3,000 for a pick. I'm not into that either. I'm here trying to help out the guys that can bet $20 a game. I don't care about the guys that can bet $10,000 a game. If you can bet $10,000 a game, then you know what? You probably don't need my information. So again, if you're interested in my information, be looking out on the website. I'm going to make sure once we get it up and going, that everyone knows, and it's going to be a monthly thing to join this forum, and everything is going to be posted on the forum. So everyone will be able to access the forum and will be able to post on the forum. And every day, every week, whatever the case may be, I'm going to post all of my information on the forum. So you'll be able to go look at it. You'll be able to go back. You'll be able to see it. I'm going to keep a tally of my records, a tally of, wins and losses. And hopefully I can get it even more defined and say, okay, am I good with favorites? Am I good with underdogs? Am I good with over and unders? Hopefully I can get it even more defined as I go. Again, guys, this is going to be different than everyone else's stuff. There's going to be a reason why it's better, because it's different. And thank you guys for this time. I hope you guys liked my breakdown of the NFC South. Hope you guys like my MLB picks for today. We're going with St. Louis money line, Miami money line. If you didn't hear it, those are good winners. If you want to know why I talked about it, and you can, I guess, go back. But anyways, guys, thank you for your time, and I'm gonna get out of here. Guys, get them plays in, especially that St. Louis play. That's the best play of the day, I think. But anyways, guys, you have a great day. This is Jacob from Would You Be This.